You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE. 8:30 is our time on this Thursday. We welcome back in Mayor Bob Morgan. Good morning, Bob.
Doug, good morning. How are you?
Good to see you again. Great.
Yeah.
Got some questions, a couple of them this morning. We had one holdover from
Okay.
about a week ago when we did the county show, so we didn't pass that along to the county board chairman.
Eric
that
didn't,
work.
he didn't answer that question.
No, we just didn't want to spring it on him, a city
Okay.
thing. We have talked about this one before. The question is 5th Street, south of the police station. In between Ella and Court Street, the caller was wondering, can we put one side of the street back the way it was? The problem is you get these trucks with extended cabs, long vehicles that park diagonally each side of the street, and it makes it kind of tough to get through there. But that was kind of the intention of the thing in the first place, though.
Well, you know, I think it was. I think that was done prior to me getting on the city council. I think two things. Number one, I think from the cost perspective, that would be a really tough thing to do right now. I think number two, I think we learned a lesson as we think about redoing like maybe 4th Street, or as we look at the downtown corridor. I think we learned very quickly that, you know, you got to make sure you plan things because things change. And I think, you know, when that calming corridor was put in, probably you didn't have as many 4-door pickups.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just as guilty because I drive one. But, you know, I think that kind of, you know, vehicles change. And I think, you know, there's times that, yeah, it gets a little narrow. And, you know, I think we need to learn from those trials that show us some things that we need to change. But getting that one back to where it was would probably be a little more difficult.
Parallel parking on one side, that really wouldn't work too well, do you think, or would it?
Well, I mean, you have to take a look at how many parking spots you lose,
Yeah.
and how much that would affect the local businesses that are on 5th Street, because, you know, that can have an impact on foot traffic.
That's kind of one of the concepts in the Court Street Corridor project, though, isn't it? A kind of a combination of parallel and diagonal, if I remember right.
There is some of that, yes, but we've got a lot larger space
Yeah.
to spread that over versus just one block.
Yeah, much wider street there.
Right.
With
Yeah.
a middle turn lane in places, too. So
Right.
5th Street doesn't have that. It's
No.
more of a bicycle path at times in there.
Yes.
But, yeah, it is a little tough. You know, it's not that you can't make it through there. It's just people want to go, and, you know, get through as quickly as they can sometimes. And
Right.
it was meant to kind of, I think, be a friendlier kind of walking type area, but
And a little bit historical of what
Yeah.
streets were. And so, you know, again, I think we've one of those things we've put in our mental basket that we won't have another street that narrow in downtown.
I think our former police chief described it as traffic calming, is what the term is. And Bruce Lang, we'll credit him with that.
Absolutely. Great, very nice term.
yeah.
We'll borrow that one.
And it does kind of calm things down. You're not going
It
through
does.
45 miles an hour or whatever. But the next question is, what is going on at the new fire headquarters? What's all the repairs, and who is paying for it?
That's a continuation of roof repairs. I think there's actually a combination when we were doing the roof repair with the hail damage from, well, now it'll be almost 2 years ago. We found a number of things in the roof from the contractor side that wasn't done quite to specs, and so we've had conversations with the, you know, architects and the construction folks, and then also the people got the bid to replace the roof. So the bottom line, those are all being corrected, and it's part of the hail damage and things that weren't quite done right are being done correctly by the contractors at hand.
With insurance on hail and then the contract difficulties there, is there any out-of-pocket then out of your budget, or is that taken care of some other way?
I would have to double check, but I'm thinking most of, not all of it, was covered under the, not the budget, but covered under the expenditures from hail.
I see. Okay. The other thing is, and I have this on the list for a little bit later, but we might as well address it now through the question. What is going to be done on East Lincoln Street? And they say east of 19th. Now, I don't know if they include 19th and Lincoln as well, but on the way out to the new elementary school, what are the plans there and kind of the timing on all that?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, we know that we're doing the Lincoln and 33rd Street area for right out by the new elementary. I believe the design documents are somewhere between that 70 and 90% complete. I know we're trying to at least get it out on the street for bids end of March, first part of April as a time frame. I think we're still on that time frame. And that runs up to about Christ Community Church. Then we're studying what we do from that point to 19th Street. There's some money set aside in the budget that we need to determine if that's the best use for that. We're going to see, number one, what the bids come in for 33rd and the Lincoln project, and see typically how contractors would work with us if there's a better deal while they're always working in town. It's kind of one of those things. And so we'll take a look and see how that project fits into our streets budget.
I might as well jump down and pick off this topic right
Sure.
by the school on 19th. Are you concerned at all about how that's going to work with access? Because you're going to see a whole new kind of traffic pattern. Instead of everybody going to 4 separate buildings in the city, they're all going to be coming out there now, and how that's all going to work going in and out of the school.
Well, I think so. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
The way, and quite honestly, that does have a roundabout built in on 33rd and that intersection. 19th and Lincoln is going to be an intersection we're just going to have to study.
Yeah.
Because we're not sure where the major traffic. Are they going to come down Lincoln Street? Are they going to come down Court Street or Highway 136? What's going to have the most traffic? And so we'll have to analyze, where those traffics are going, because at this point we're not 100% sure.
Yeah. It's going to be a learning experience for everybody.
Well, it will. It will. I think that the streets we will continue to work on is in that area, and of course other places as well. But it's one of those things. The school's going to be there, and it'll be a nice asset to the community, and we're going to have to work out the streets issue.
Okay. Well, you have a public open house this afternoon for the South 13th project out by Beatrice Country Club. That's from 4 until 6, and it's kind of one of those where you can show up for as much time as you want and leave, or stay for the whole thing, kind of whatever you think.
Correct. Speaking of streets, that's one of the major projects that we have in the 2024. It's actually a holdover from 2023. 13th Street from Beaver Avenue to Oak is where it runs. That street is deteriorating because of a poor foundation underneath. One of the issues that you have there is there's a number of homeowners that live along that street, and I think it's Country Club Estates is one of the few places where there's only one entrance and one exit. And so the contractor and I think the city engineer will be there today talking to people about how to get in and out, because it'll have to be done in segments so they don't lose access to their home. And it's just a little tricky with only one entrance in and one entrance out. So I think Team and Construction got the bid. And so they'll be kind of leading the public meeting, kind of explaining how they're going to stage the project so people have access to their properties.
Off of Beaver Street to the east, where it turns into gravel as you go up that hill there,
Yes.
right by the... That just dead ends, doesn't it? There's no way, and there's no way to rework that to do anything.
No, that's a dead end, and boom, you're done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be nice if that kind of circled around in there, but
it would. I said, it is one of those unusual places. If you think across the city, I'm sure there's others, but that's one of the areas that doesn't have the luxury of several ways in and out.
Yeah. Don't you have actually 3 points on 13th that have that one way, one out? Because they're kind of clustered there, aren't they?
They are.
There's like 3 of them, I think, that go in there. So
there is.
It'll be interesting to see how do you do the south part first? Do you do the north part first? Do you do the middle part, or what? I don't know.
That's going to be. I guess that's one of the nice things, that you have a local contractor that knows what they're doing, and they'll be able to stage the traffic.
Yeah. Before we take a break here, jump down just on our list a little bit. Mayor's Prayer Breakfast is coming back March 27th, and that'll be at the Holiday Inn Express Conference Room there, 6 in the morning, and guest speaker is going to be Trev Alberts, University of Nebraska athletic director. It can be a nice talk if you want to find out about what's going on with Husker sports.
A great speaker. What was it? Councilman Barnard, Councilman Fairbanks, and I believe Councilman Doyle had mentioned that they'd like to see that bring back, and I said, sure, that'd be fine. And they've actually done the planning and went out and got Mr. Alberts to be the speaker, and it should be a good time. I think that any time you can interject a little opportunity for breakfast and prayer and faith into the community, I think that's a good thing.
I was trying to remember the last time one of those was held, because I'm sure I went to it probably, but I said, 15 years ago?
It could have been.
Somewhere around there?
It could have been. I know it wasn't in the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah. So that is March 27th, 6 p.m. and
6 a.m.
Or 6 a.m. Yeah, breakfast, Doug, 6 a.m., not 6 p.m. Yeah. I even wrote it down wrong here.
I didn't say that.
That's okay. 6 a.m. That's right. Breakfast at the Holiday Inn on March 27th. Tickets, $15 each. Just kind of people buying them and distributing them, or you can
buying them, contributing them. Like I said, all the councilmen, I believe, have tickets, and I think there is a limit of 300 because that's the room of the size of the room. Yeah.
Okay. Back with more on Ask the Mayor in just a moment with Mayor Bob Morgan. Back on Ask the Mayor today with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Well, after another discussion round on fireworks, finally, a new ordinance approved of a 6-day period for sales and use. I'm assuming you probably don't want to bring this back for a while again.
Well, we're through it. We have the ordinance in place. As I was thinking about it, in some respects, it's nice to have local control. Yeah. But on the other side of the coin, when you have at the state level that you can sell and discharge for those 10 days or a little longer, you kind of go, it would be nice to have maybe not that decision done at the local level. But no, I think it should be at the local level, and I think it's probably about as fair of a compromise as we can come up with. I think, first of all, July 5th was a major mistake or a faux pas just because the state allowed July 5th. There's no reason to have included July 5th. I think the thought process was there is what happens if the 4th gets rained out. And I think we've learned a valuable lesson that if the 4th of July gets rained out, it gets rained out. Yeah. And, I think this one will be one that we go down the road. And the hardest part about wide open issues such as fireworks, that basically you've got 12,500 constituents, and we all have opinions. And I think one of the people that spoke at the public said, you're right, it's somewhat polarizing for a lot of people, because there are a lot of people that are really, it is the celebration of our great country's birthday, and others who have some legitimate concerns because of the noise. And so it becomes polarizing for those two groups. And for the others, it's probably one of those things about, well, what's the big deal? Well, on both ends, it is a big deal to them. So, I think the compromise is good. I think the compromise gets rid of July 5th, and that was one of the things that I was hoping that we would come to a compromise so we did not have July 5th again. Yeah. And so I think we're in a place that is tolerable for some and very exciting for others.
Toughest thing about things like this is deciding just how large the opposition and support is, because people cite, well, I got this petition together and I got so many names that they believe in this, and then you throw in social media, which of course we know is always right, and after a while you're sitting there wondering, well, how does the public at large really feel about this, and where would they land on this if they had to pick an alternative?
That's exactly right, Doug. I think there were some. I would call them homegrown surveys, and there was some surveys on Facebook, and they are just that. They're homegrown surveys that don't really give us a good option. As you saw, you had some homegrown petitions that created a number of signatures, and then you had Facebook that created a number of signatures, and those two didn't equal each other, because the written signatures were the folks that didn't want fireworks, at all, or very short period, and then you've got Facebook who said, no, we need to have a longer period of time. And so, that just kind of shows you the difference that they're there. And sometimes when you come up with a compromise, you hope it works for everybody, and you're not going to make everybody happy. Yeah.
After the vote on that, the final vote, I noticed there was no mention of, well, let's review this again after 1 year. Is it something you just stick with and see
I think
we decided this, and now that's just the way
think,
it's going to be.
I really think that's the way we have to go down that road right now. I think we've done that. And, I think a lot of valid points were brought up is the fact that, again, I know it's not a huge tax revenue generator for the city, but it does generate a number of nonprofit organizations the opportunity to make some money. And, keeping money local and in the city of Beatrice is always important for constituents. And again, we have to just bear in mind, probably the thing I would say is we need to do a good job of trying, if we can, enforce the time of when the discharge are, particularly from the 29th through the 2nd. I think those are going to be some times that we need to try to build in, and I guess I would urge people that enjoy fireworks that the more you respect that time, the less of an issue we're going to have in years to come.
Just to save confusion, was there any thought of standardizing that curfew time throughout that entire sales and use period just to make it simple? Or
I think there was, but I think the issue is, if you stop at 10 o'clock on the 3rd and the 4th, are you giving people enough time to shoot them when the sun actually goes down?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's in the books. It's decided. This is what we'll go with now.
Yes, it is. It's done. And I guess the thing that I was probably felt the best about had nothing to do with the ordinance. I believe that there were a number of people that had some well thought out concerns on both sides and expressed themselves in a very positive way. I think you were there for those discussions. I don't think any of the discussions were how do I say?
Not mean-spirited.
They weren't mean-spirited
like
at all, and I think that's a hats off to the community as well.
Yeah. On occasion emotional, but that's okay.
Right. But it wasn't mean-spirited. There wasn't name-calling. There was a number of things that I have to be proud of our constituents that were there and spoke out on their behalf of their issue.
Yep. All right. One other thing, Monday night, application for aid for airport projects. A couple of projects are out there. The apron project left to be done and the relocation of the fuel thing. What's kind of the time frame and when you would hope to learn if you are on the list of projects?
Well, we hope that we're on the list. We hope we hear that, sometime late summer.
Yeah.
When the construction is due, I'm not sure what the parameters are there, but I think we've done a good job of getting a number of these grants to help the airport. Number of runway resurfacing. This one helps with, I think it's apron C, and then moving the fuel terminal from where it is. And again, as I've said numerous times, Dennis Schmidt does a great job of running the airport, and the airport is a really nice airport for a first-class city of 12,500, and it's an asset. It's a strong asset for the community, and I think the Airport Board Authority, when they were in place, did a good job of really capitalizing in on federal grants to continue to make the airport a great place. And then as the city took it over, we continue to do that as well with the help of the Airport Advisory Authority.
Back to wrap up, Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan in just a moment here on KWBE. A few more things to talk about. We'll just kind of do them in rapid fire here as much as we can. Annexation of newly acquired property at the Gage County Industrial Park has started. First round approval on that. Once that is added into the city, Mayor, does that give you any advantages in terms of marketing that or tools to maybe get somebody to acquire that property and develop there?
It does. Number one, it helps us market it. Number two, it gives tax increment financing ability to those people that want to, improve the infrastructure. There are some tax breaks and benefits that really most industry look for when they move into an industrial park.
Okay. And that takes two more votes.
Two more rounds.
Separate votes there. Yeah, the other one was changing of the zoning on some property along South 6th Street, just to the south of, south and west of Chautauqua Park, kind of up on that hill there. There was some thought at one time that maybe that might be ripe for commercial development, but never kind of has materialized.
And I think it was before I was on the city council. I'm thinking it was 2010. The thought process was commercial should be on both sides of where you have a highway. So this is on Highway 77. Probably should try to make that as commercial as possible. If you look at where that's at in that bank and you look at the nice houses that are there, probably doesn't make any sense. And I think it was one of those broad decisions of what we were going to do. And so now we're going back in and we're taking a look at that and said, maybe that's an area that is going to be better for residential. However, we also kept it as general commercial if somebody wanted to have a business in there.
Okay. Well, from fireworks to chickens. Next topic that might be out there in terms of, and I didn't realize a lot of people own them in town.
Yes.
Where are you headed with on discussion of that?
Well, I think actually is an area that I think is somewhat exciting. I think a couple of people from the ordinance committee is meeting with some members of the chicken association that they have in Beatrice, which I was not aware of, when we first went down there for the first reading. And as I've talked many, many times, it's nice to try to solve some of the issues at the lowest level. And so I think the ordinance committee and some of the chicken association members are going to meet and kind of talk about the problems on both sides. So I think for the time being, it will be off the table until we can work through some things that might make sense. And if they have some good suggestions of what might make sense, maybe we give that a trial run for a period of time before we quickly bring it back.
Yeah. At first, when that was brought up, wasn't there kind of a suggestion of a limit of how many you could own or something, or keep in one spot at a time? But maybe too early to talk about that then.
I think so. I think that those two groups need to have some good conversations and education on both sides.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not a chicken farmer.
Yeah. And I didn't even realize, that there are that many people that kept them in town, but because you don't, unless you're going by at the time and you see them out there, you wouldn't know probably. And some people conceal that fairly well, so I don't know.
Right. So again, I think that's one of those things where the two groups are going to try to see what we come up with before we bring anything else forward.
Okay. Since we're into a new construction season, or we will be here shortly if we're not already, one of the major things that was going to be done this year was resurfacing U.S. Highway 136 through town. I think from, was it 2nd to 19th, somewhere around there? Any kind of idea on the timeline of that, when that's going to happen? Or
well, no? Don't quote me on this.
Yeah.
But
I almost hate to mention it after water main.
But I was thinking that I'm not sure if that got pushed back a year.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
All right.
If not, they're going to have to get started here pretty soon.
Well, I know the 77 one was farther off into the future.
That was farther off in the future. I don't know.
Okay.
That one, for some reason, something sticks into my head that got pushed back.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, we'll see down the road.
Yes, we will.
At some point.
And again, just to clarify, that is a Nebraska Department of Roads project and not a city project. Yeah. So
you don't make the call on that one. They just come in and do it, and
they show up and say, "Here we are."
Yeah. It's not really doesn't take that long of a time once they get rolling, but it would be a little inconvenience.
There'll be some heartburn as they go through that. Yeah. But again, since it's the Nebraska Department of Roads, they'll go ahead and move in, and then they'll say, "Okay, here it is. Yeah. Now you maintain it at your cost." So,
and you don't get a whole lot of help either.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it does. Since we're into the not the waning days, but kind of the final third of the Nebraska legislative session, I know they've ended committee hearings and it's all floor debate now. I know the city administration kind of watches some bills that are out there. Anything in particular stand out for you as far as how it might affect municipalities this year among bills that might be headed through first or second round right now?
Well, we still have the bill that we're hoping gets passed to see if we get our grant of the $1 million for renovation of the Kensington. Mm-hmm. That was one that we thought was awarded, and then it turned out that there were some restrictions from the federal government and the state, and so I know that's been a bill that we need to kind of hopefully. Last I heard, it was progressing and maybe got moved into another bill that's going to pass, and so we're hoping for that. Mm-hmm. I think we're like every municipality. I think we have to kind of see where the governor's budget is, and how that the changes in property tax structure is going to work to figure out how we make our adjustments to our budget. So there's a couple of things there that I don't think are going to come to maybe fruition during the 60 days, but I think there's some things we have to be aware of so we can plan.
Last year, I know they packaged a lot of things into what would normally be called omnibus bills. You get all these sometimes unrelated things packaged into one, so you might not know if something's going to pass until the last 4 or 5 days of the session, and that can be good. That can be bad, though, too, in terms of mandates.
It can, and I think it's going to be. I think it'll probably be some very long days for our state senators for the next. What is it, 30 days?
Yeah.
20 days?
Might be down to about 25 now, because I think it ends in mid-April, and some late nights in there, I suppose.
I would guess so.
Who watches that? Is it mainly Tobias and Taylor, or who's kind of in charge of that?
Tobias, Taylor, League of Municipalities usually does a good job of letting them know. And so there's a number of people that are always watching bills that get introduced.
Yeah. All right, Bob, thanks very much for coming in again.
Thank you.